Hey guys, welcome to Ryan's Running Reviews. Today we're going to mix it up and take a look at a hiking boot. So I guess we'll be Ryan's hiking reviews today. Not as catchy, but it still works. And today we're taking a look at the Salomon Outpulse Mid GTX. Let's hike with it. Before we get started, I do want to say these boots were provided to me by Roadrunner Sports. However, they didn't have a chance to preview this video, and this final synopsis is my own. I'd also like to say please leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. Here we go. The Salomon Outpulse Mid GTX is a lightweight, nimble, and agile hiking boot designed for mixed trails and some of those easier efforts. It's not so much your top tier technical kind of like long trek hiking boot. So it just kind of depending on what you need, I would probably use this more for those mid-range hikes or easy days. Now it also comes in a low cut version, so if you don't like the mid edition, you can use the low cuts, can be a little bit lighter and probably even more agile. This $160 shoe only comes in at 13.4 ounces, which is pretty good for a mid-cut hiking boot. It definitely feels light on foot and is probably one of the big positives of this particular model. Now, as far as stack height goes, we get 31.7 in the heel, 21.7 in the forefoot for a 10mm drop. The cushioning is about middle of the road. It's pretty much average for a shoe like this. The midsole foam is something called Fuse Surge, which is an interesting mix from Salomon. Basically, they took their softest EVA foam, combined it with 30% natural rubber, and you get this special compound. Now, it's kind of deceiving. You thought if it uses their softest EVA, it would have a really plush experience, and that's not the case here. You do have a little bit of squish in the heel, but for the most part, the ride here, especially in the forefoot, is very firm. It has a nice level of impact protection, but there's not a lot of squish or energy return here. The midsole also contains something called an energy blade. Essentially, this is a TPU plate. You can actually see it between the midsole and the outsole. It's the little white piece here, and then if you flip the shoe over in these little slits on the outsole, you can see that white TPU plate. Now, this is supposed to kind of stiffen up the shoe. It doesn't do that a lot. It's rather flexible. You can pretty much bend and twist this boot fairly easily. I guess it does stiffen it up a little bit, but it doesn't feel like a true plated experience, at least compared to like running shoes or other plated boots that I've used. Now, it does give you kind of a moderate amount of rock plate protection. I think it works decently there. So it does, I think, serve some role, but for the most part, I don't think it really does stiffen up the shoe too much, at least according to, I guess, what Salomon said. It's a very flexible forefoot. Now, it isn't like a minimal shoe, but it just feels kind of like your typical boot, and I think the TPU plate more acts as a rock plate protection, which isn't the most maximal rock plate ever, but it does give you a moderate amount of protection from rocks. So overall, the midsole is definitely on the firmer side of things. It has a nice kind of roll to it. It flows very nicely. And the other thing I'll say too is it's not the most stable platform I've ever tried, mainly because it's so flexible, it bends fairly easily, and doesn't have the most kind of structural elements built into the shoe either. So if that's something you need, I might go in a different direction. This, however, I think works better for those nimble, more quick efforts. And then in the middle of all that, you have that TPU plate, which I don't think really stiffens up the shoe too much, or at least I didn't notice it that much compared to other hiking boots I've tried. And I think it more kind of gave me a moderate rock plate experience. We get a synthetic Gore-Tex upper with what looks to be like a knit material with strong plastic overlays scattered throughout to provide structural support. Now, as far as fit goes, it was rather snug. This is definitely a snug shoe, so I recommend going up half a size. My toe was like directly at the top, which is not something you want for a hiking boot because that'll just slam into the front, and I noticed that a lot when going downhill. So I recommend going up half a size, give yourself a little bit more room, but it's a very narrow, very tight-fitting shoe. As far as the material goes, I was quite happy with it. That Gore-Tex material kept my foot dry, and the breathability was actually quite nice here. And as far as the plastic overlays go, you do get some solid protection. It's a rather durable rubber, and I was happy with how well it kept my toe safe every time I kicked a rock, which was quite often. And then the support through the midfoot was good as well. So we'll see how the knit material holds up, but it was very breathable and very comfortable. The tongue is fully gusseted, does a great job of keeping debris and water from getting inside my boot. Didn't have any issues with that. As far as the padding goes, it's average or maybe on the more minimal side of things, and I thought it was fairly comfortable. The lacing system did an excellent job of keeping my midfoot contained, and again, this is a very snug experience, so I didn't feel like my foot was going anywhere. However, I do have some complaints about the lacing towards the top. Now, this is a mid-cut shoe, and I was hoping for a little bit more ankle support than it actually provided. You only get one metal clip on either side, which gives you at least limited lacing options, and I don't feel like it had a great ankle lockdown. I was hoping just for a little bit of a tighter fit up there. Again, the rest of the shoe, very tight, very snug, maybe a little bit too snug, probably go up half size, but the top of the shoe had a little bit too much room for my ankle to play with. So I wish they would add maybe a couple more eyelets or kind of clips for the lacing system to tie with so I could have a more snug fit there. However, I thought the padding in the ankle and Achilles area was fairly comfortable. It has a moderate amount of cushioning, nothing too excessive, and I think it did the job. No blisters, no Achilles pressure, anything like that. That was fairly comfortable. And then as far as like the protection it gives the mid part of your ankle, I think it worked well. I had branches and rocks kind of scrape against it and didn't notice anything. Now, it's not the most supportive experience, but I think it does its job as far as comfort and protection from outside debris. I also really appreciated the large pull tab they added to the back. Very easy to grab. It's not your wimpy pull tab. It's super easy to grip, which I really appreciate. Sometimes they just give you a thin piece of material and it doesn't always work, especially for bringing gloves if it's cold out or anything like that. So large piece of fabric here, and I definitely used it because it's a snug shoe. So trying to get your foot in and out of this thing takes a little bit of effort, and that pull tab helps a lot. We do get 59 Contra Grip rubber lugs on the outsole that I thought worked fairly well. I didn't take it through any significant mud. The tread pattern is relatively close together, so I don't know if it would be optimal for that, but hiking on rocks and just various gravel environments, I thought it gripped well. I was kind of doing rock scrambling up and down rocks here in Maryland, and it performed very well. So I think the rubber traction here is fairly good. Might not be the best for some of those wetter, more damp, soggy environments, but for your typical, again, kind of your easy, more nimble rock scrambles or trails, I think it worked very well. It didn't have any complaints, and I'm pretty used to this kind of Contra Grip tread with some of the other Salomon boots that I've used on some of my longer excursions like the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, and Glacier National Park. So where does that leave us? Well, I think it works well as a lightweight, nimble hiking boot. I will say go up half a size. It's a very snug, slim fit, and I wish the ankle and Achilles area had a better lockdown. Maybe they had a couple more lacing options towards the top of the shoe. I think it would just have a better experience. Now, it's also in a weird situation where typically for me, my personal experiences comes down to my hiking style. I'd rather just go with a trail runner if I'm going on more casual effort. I don't know if I would go for a lightweight, nimble mid-cut boot just because the weight savings, and I don't think a trail runner is that much less supportive, mainly because mid-cut shoes don't give me that much ankle support. They do give you a little bit more protection, keep water from coming in, but I really don't care if I'm doing kind of my easy or mixed trail hikes. And if I'm doing a full hike, I'm just going to upgrade all the way to a lightweight full boot. So it really depends what you're looking for, but if you're someone who wants, again, a mid-cut boot for light and agile efforts, I think this works. Again, just go up half a size, and then be careful with how the lockdown works at the top of the shoe. Well, that's the review. Let me know in the comments how you configure your shoe lineup for all your adventure needs. Do you use trail runners? Do you use full hiking boots? Do you just use tennis shoes? Let me know what you think. Well, I'm Ryan for Ryan's Running Reviews, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.